thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for your support of One Great Hour of Sharing. Presbyterian Disaster Assistance, Self-Development of People, and the Hunger Program all share the One Great Hour of Sharing. So we get 32% of that, and we use that for administrative costs of our program. And the funds that you send in for designated giving are very much appreciated, and those are for programs. I was very glad to hear that our brother from Malawi was here. We've done a lot of work in Malawi with the Blantyre Synod, particularly with the farmers and getting their agriculture back and working with them on sustainability. And we've also were there. We have a vital international program, which is sometimes not as well known in the U.S., but we were there for the Ebola crisis in Liberia and Sierra Leone. I have a fact sheet called 2015 at a Glance that is down on the table with the blue poster. One Great Hour of Sharing is a key for us, so thank you again for that. We are also, besides known as Presbyterian Disaster Assistance, we're also known as the Blue Shirts. How many of you have earned a blue shirt? Why don't you stand up if you've earned a blue shirt? Thank you so much. You are the hands and feet of Christ. I hope you know that. And I was very glad to hear what Sarah had to say, because you know what happened to Lazarus was a disaster. And you know, people come in a disaster. And that is a time when you can show your ministry of presence as a child of God, the hands and feet of God. Presbyterian Disaster Assistance is known for long-term recovery. Presbyterian Boston, we worked very hard there after the Northeast winter storms just socked them to the point they could not get to church. They had no parking for their people. The roads became one way only, so they couldn't get to church. And you know what happens if you don't have church for 3 or 4 weeks and nothing's put in the offering plate? Well, some churches were ready to close. So we were there, Presbyterian Disaster Assistance, because of your support. And we even went to the Presbyterian Mission Agency Board and said, look, we've got disaster in the Northeast and you have to bend some rules. And they did. Amazing, isn't it? Presbyterians can bend the rules. We were very grateful to them. So we were able to provide the Synod of the Northeast with $300,000, which they distributed to their churches to keep their doors open and their ministers paid. So we are grateful. In the 2015 statistics that are on the table, you will see the national and the international program. I also have some forms out there. One of them is our newest magazine release, the Mission Mosaic. All churches should have received a copy of the Mission Mosaic. I hope you look at it. It not only talks about our ministry with refugees, which is a key for us. We have Susan Crable on staff. She is located in Maryland, but she works with the Ministry of Refugees and Immigrants. That is one of the mandates we got from the General Assembly. When One Great Hour of Sharing, I think you know, started after World War II, when the crisis in Europe really necessitated our helping. And from that hour of prayer, One Great Hour of Sharing blossomed, and we helped out. And so immigration and refugee was very important to our ministry. It also gives Katrina 10 years of faithful service. As I said, Presbyterian Disaster Assistance is known for long-term recovery. We did spend 10 years recovering from Katrina. We're spending a lot of time recovering from Superstorm Sandy, although some call it hurricane, but it's Superstorm Sandy. We've had a lot of hurricanes. Hurricane Ike was actually a huge hurricane for the Texas area. Texas was very hard hit in 2015. with flooding and with storms and tornadoes, and it just seemed like one thing after another. So we are in all of the presbyteries in Texas, helping them recover from last year. So they have been experiencing a drought, and then you know what happens after a drought? Flooding. And what happens after snow? Flooding. That's what we have. And we have tornadoes. In Blackhawk Presbytery, we helped last year with two tornado events. And in Great Rivers, they also had a tornado, and we helped out there as well. In addition to long-term recovery and the ministry of presence, which the blue shirts do so well, besides get your hands dirty, is hospitality. And that started thanks to Hurricane Katrina, because there were volunteers galore, but there was no place for them to stay. So we had to come up with something really fast. So we came up with, first we started with military tents. Well, they weren't very sustainable, sorry military, but they wouldn't last very long. So then we hooked up with a Canadian group who were making pods out of actually campaign signs. That material that they make campaign signs with, we made pods. Did any of you stay in a pod? Okay. You know how bad they were, right? I was never more glad to see something go away than the pods. But then and the ministry we do now is with churches. Churches such as yours, who open their doors to work teams to work when there is a recovery, so that they can get places. Camp Pioka, when the tornado went through Henryville, Pioka opened their doors for work teams to come. They were a little far away, but they still hosted work teams to go and help in the Henryville community in Indiana on recovery from that tornado. So you can be a hosting site as well. There are some requirements to be a hosting site, as you can imagine, but we are open to assessing any church that wants to be a host site, and also those churches that want to, we help with funding so that you can put in, for instance, showers if you need that, and to be a way station, and we upgrade kitchen facilities and things for that purpose. So there are a lot of things that Presbyterian Disaster Assistance does that you may not be aware of, but we're really out there for the hands and feet of Christ. And when Sarah said go and do, we go and do. So we thank you for that. We also respond to human-caused disasters, and unfortunately there's many more of those than there should be. Public violence incidents. Last year, unfortunately, we responded to 5 different locations. Ohio, let me get my cheat sheet out here. Some people love statistics. I work with the finances, so I have to love statistics and the finances, but I find the increase in what we are responding to disconcerting. But last year we had our national response team, which is 96 members strong. These are trained individuals who give up at least 4 weeks, many more than that. We call those disaster junkies. But they give up at least 4 weeks of every year to the disaster work. 2 weeks are training, 2 weeks are out in the field, and they are really dedicated men and women. We have pastors and lay. It's a great combination of human beings and Presbyterians. We responded last year to 14 wildfires, 8 tornadoes, 13 floods, winter storms, 170 deployments for our national response team. We also have national volunteers. We have 12 of those currently. And they take the same training, but because of their work schedules and their lifestyle, they can't commit to 4 weeks. And so we call them for short deployments, 1 or 2 days during the week or when they're available. But some of them are very well trained to handle such things as insurance questions and some emotional spiritual care counselors. The 5 shooting events were Lakewood, Ohio. That was a murder-suicide in a church. Roseburg, Oregon. I don't know if you remember the press that the community college got when they had the shooting. Deer Lodge, Montana. It was the first time we've ever had to respond to Montana, and it was a situation of a murder-suicide in a church that had a preschool, so that was a very critical situation. Charleston, South Carolina, the church shooting there, and San Bernardino, California, with the community shooting that was there. So we are responding this year in many different areas. Also, we respond to technological disasters, for instance, the Flint water crisis. But you probably don't know, which hasn't gotten a lot of attention. Flint has gotten a lot of attention, which is great. But once it's out of the media, the attention goes away, but the problem doesn't go away. So again, that's where long-term recovery comes in. Your church stays. And we work alongside with our ecumenical partners, the Methodists, the Episcopalians, the Lutherans, the Catholics. They stay in the community, as you know, and they help the community recover. So those are our ecumenical partners. We sit around the round table and we say, what can you bring? The other people say, we can bring this. We get together, we form an unmet needs committee, and we get the job done in the community. And that's what happened, of course, in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. We rehabbed a church and school that had been closed and opened that up to work teams, and they're still using that today. They're more into development recovery rather than the hurricane recovery, because that's just about finished up, which is great. But still there is development that needs to be done in the Ninth Ward and other areas of New Orleans. In addition to the Flint water crisis, Hoosick Falls, New York. Has anybody ever heard of Hoosick Falls? Okay, that's about 20 miles from Albany. So it's an Albany Presbyterian. We got a call from the Presbyterian exec, and she goes, I don't know how to tell you this, but you know Flint? And I said, yes, we know Flint. And she said, we've got a situation in our town with contaminated water from a plastics company. And it's very serious. The banks have stopped giving mortgages. The school system is providing bottled water when they don't have the resources for that. And there is a Presbyterian church of about 10 members in Hoosick Falls. And she said the only other church in town is the Catholic Church, and we've talked about how in the world we could get together, but our polity is too dissimilar. We can't do it. I said, I understand that. So she said, what can this little church do? And I said, well, give us a chance. So we sent a team in to Hoosick Falls, and then Aaron Brockovich showed up. And her lawyers showed up. So that little town is getting some notoriety and some assistance. But their members, who are older, and 10 of them, 10 strong older members, said, we can help. So they are working on this with their community, working on with the health board, getting testing. The cancer rate is very high there, so they are providing support for the cancer patients. They have really turned out to say, we are a small church, but my gosh, we can do something. So they're getting out there and doing. And not because of our team that went in, but our team goes in and gives encouragement and says, yes, you can do this. Here's the ways we can help. Here's the ways you can get help. Here are the connections you need to make. We're well connected to FEMA. I'm probably one of the few people who regularly every day gets a FEMA report and has to scan it for what disasters have been declared. But there are a lot of people that look at the weather reports, but that doesn't give the information the FEMA reports give, trust me. So sometimes I call up and I say, oh my gosh, you don't know what's headed our way. And they say, well, just calm down and wait. And I said, well, I know that because we're not first responders, but we try to be there before, when a disaster hits, we make sure that a team goes in to be with that congregation in that community by that Sunday, by that coming Sunday, so that they know that the larger church is with them and that is providing help and care and really cares about them. So that ministry of presence is very important when you're in the midst of a disaster, to know that you're not out there all alone. We don't want anybody to be out there all alone. I did want to share something else with you that just happened this week. Well, actually, I'll start with the letter I received on February 11th. Dear friends, I am the Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and our city and organization benefited tremendously from the funding, equipment, and volunteers sent through Presbyterian Disaster Assistance after the April 27, 2011 tornado destroyed 1/6 of our city. You may remember Joplin, Missouri got a lot of attention at that time, but Tuscaloosa was also hit very hard. I am a Presbyterian elder and member at First Presbyterian Tuscaloosa, which housed so many volunteers from all over the country. I have told our PDA story to anyone who would listen. I write because a very small community in a neighboring county, Aliceville in Pickens County, Alabama, was hit by a tornado on February 2nd. Although there are relatively few homes damaged or destroyed, 57 homes destroyed at last report, at least 10 of these families have no insurance and live well below the poverty line. Aliceville is about 60 miles from Tuscaloosa, and our Habitat affiliate is raising funds to provide homes for some of these people. The main difficulty in the situation is that there is no disaster declaration, so there will be no federal assistance for these people, no FEMA, no nothing. The Red Cross closed its shelter and left town. The Salvation Army never came. There are some small organizations working there, but this rural county of 20,000 people is a poor place, and funding is just about non-existent. I would like to ask if PDA might have any amount of funding to help these people. The situation is quite desperate, as there is basically no rental housing in such a small community. Blessings, Ellen Potts, Executive Director, Habitat for Humanity of Tuscaloosa. 7 days later, February 18th, and you think your church can't move fast? Sometimes we move very fast. I wrote back to Ellen and said, Ellen, let's get with your Presbyterian executive, Jay Wilkins. Let's see if we can't get a grant issued. And I copied Jay on my reply to Ellen and sent Jay the sample grant forms that he needed to fill out. It's just actually a letter of assistance, him asking on behalf of the Presbytery for assistance for that community. Jay did that very promptly. It got back to us, it got through our system, and on February 18th, I got this email from Ellen. Dear friends, thank you so much. for this wonderful gift to the Presbyterian of Shepherd's Lapsley for Aliceville tornado relief. Last Monday night, the session at First Presbyterian Tuscaloosa agreed to match this gift of $7,500. Also, the Episcopal Diocese will give $5,000 and has encouraged their congregations in Tuscaloosa County to donate. PDA started an avalanche of giving. We are working with the Baptist and the Methodist churches in Aliceville to solicit donations from their denominations too. Thank you so much. I am so proud to be a Presbyterian. I don't know, it's those stories like that keep me working. And I would like to close before I ask for questions with a quote from Nelson Mandela. What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we led.